Hello and welcome to this video as we continue discussing files and folders. We are now on our desktop and I'm going to illustrate a few things regarding files and folders. So the first thing that we need to do is to locate our Windows Explorer. So you can find it on your taskbar, this yellow folder. If you point at it, it shows you Windows Explorer. You click on it and then it opens Windows Explorer. What you are going to do next is to look for computer or my computer, depending on what is on your system. So I find computer and I click on it, and then it opens for me in this detail window the drives that I have on my system. The one that I want is the C drive, so I double click on it to open it. So you can see that immediately it shows me a list of folders. So these are the contents of the root folder on the C drive. So if you look up here, it shows you that you are on your computer on the local disk C. So this top part here is actually showing you the path for where you are currently. So currently we are in the root folder of the local disk C. I have created a training folder and I'm going to open it by double clicking on it, or you can right click on your mouse and select open. It then opens and shows me the contents of my training folder. Up here you can now see that from computer we go into the C drive, then into the training folder. There are different types of files on this folder, but you can see that the icons are rather small. So the first thing that we are going to do is to look at how we can change the way that the contents of the folder are displayed. So you go to any empty space on the window and you right click, and the first option says view. Then you go to the right. You can select any of these options, but the one that is currently selected says details. In other words, it is listing or showing the details for each file or folder. In this case, we are showing the name, the date last modified, the type of the file, as well as the size of the file. So that is what you see when you select details. But the ones that you probably want to use more often will be your extra large icons. You can see that it shows very huge icons for each file. I right click, go back to view, large icons, they become a bit smaller. Right click, view, medium icons, even smaller, and then small icons. But let's work with large icons. There are more options that I would like you to try when you right click inside the folder, like for example sort by. The top part says what do you want to sort by. Do you want to sort by the name or arrange the files according to the name, or according to the date the file was last modified, or according to the type of the file, or according to the size? So now it is saying sort by the name, then the bottom part says whether you want them arranged in ascending order or descending order. So in this case, we are sorting by the name and we are starting from A to Z. So that is why you start with car until you get to P. But if we say descending order, it starts with the P and ends with the C. Then you go back, say sort by. This time let's select type. It now puts files of the same type together. These two are photographs. These two are Excel spreadsheets. This is a presentation, and this is a Microsoft Word document. We right click again, sort by, and then you say size. Now it's sorting according to size, but we can't really see the size. So for us to see the size, we change the view. So I right click and then I say view and view the details. So now you can see that it is sorted according to the size in descending order, with the largest file on top with 1,000 kilobytes down to the smallest file with 18 kilobytes. Okay, I'll go back to view large icons. So like I said, I would like you to play around with a lot of these options here. Some of them are going to be discussed a bit later on during this course. What I'm going to do now is to go back to the root of the C drive. So on this path on top here, you can basically click on the level where you'd like to return to. If I click on local disk C, I go back to the root folder of C. If I click on computer, I will jump straight to my computer. So I want to go back to the root folder, so I click here and it takes me back to the root folder of C drive. What I'd like you to do on your computer, and this is an exercise that you are going to send to me, is to create a folder. So we are going to create it together, and then you are going to send that folder to me with all the contents that we are going to put inside that folder. For you to create a new folder, there are two methods. The first is to use this option up here that says new folder, or you can right click on any blank space on the detail window here. Then you look for new. When you point at new, it shows you folder, so you just move across straight and you click on folder. So immediately it shows new folder as the name of that folder. You must now give this folder a name. So I'm going to call mine test folder. So I'd like you to also call your folder test folder, so that when you send it to me, I know that this is the folder for this particular exercise. So you press enter, and now I've got a new folder called test folder. If I double click on it, that folder is still empty. So I can go back to the root, and now it has sorted my folders alphabetically, so my test folder is now up here. The first thing that we are going to do is to create a file. So there are many programs that you can use for creating a file. It can be Microsoft Word, it can be Excel, an accounting system, a human resource management system. But on all Windows computers, there's an application called Notepad that you can use for creating any text document. So what you do is you click on your start button and then you just start typing Notepad. The moment I start typing Notepad, before I even finish, it pulls up all the items that have got note on them, starting with this item Notepad. So I select it by clicking on it, and then it opens this program called Notepad. So you can actually type whatever you want. Let's say this is a test file. Then I press enter and you type my name is, and you put your full name there. So this is all we are going to put in this file, because we are simply demonstrating how to create a new file. So once you have these two lines, you go to the menu on top and you select File, and then you select Save. So we are now going to save these contents onto the hard drive. So you click on File, then Save. Now it opens a window where you can select where you'd like to save that file. So on the left here, you can look for computer. Then you click on computer and then select the C drive. And then on the C drive, we look for test folder. So open it by double clicking it. So now you can see that on the path window here, it now shows you that you're on the test folder on the C drive. Then on file name, we would like to give it a name called test file. So you call it test file and you click on save. So now this file has been saved, and you can see on top here it now shows test file Notepad. So we have finished working, so we can close this window. Now we go back into the test folder by double clicking. Now you can see that it shows that we've got one file which is called test file. So we have successfully created a new file. Next, I'm going to show you how to copy one or more files from one folder to another. So I'm going to go to my training folder and copy some files from there. For you, you can just go to any of the folders on your computer and select which files you'd like to copy into this test folder. So I click on my C drive, then go into my training, and it shows me all the files in there. So for you to copy just one file, all you have to do is point to that file and right click, then you select copy. After selecting copy, you go to the place where you want to paste it. So it's a copy and paste. So we go back to C and I select test folder. Then I right click. This time we are now saying paste. So I click on paste. So my presentation has now been pasted into the test folder. So we start at the place where the file is, which is C, and in my case training. You point at the file you want, right click, then you select copy. After that, you go to the folder where you want to paste it, C, and then test folder, and then you right click and you say paste. So this is how you copy one file. But if you want to copy 2 or more files, there are a number of ways that you can select those files. So let's go back to my C and training, but remember you are using another folder of your choice. If I want to select all of these files, I can just start from anywhere outside here, and I press down my left button on the mouse and I drag. As you can see, it's like I'm drawing. I drag and select all the files. I could do that if there are 2 files which are next to each other. I simply start here, hold down my mouse, then drag, so I don't leave the mouse until I have highlighted all the ones I want. So before I leave it, I can actually move in any direction, but it will be starting on the file where we started here. So if I just want these 2, I simply leave it there. And once these are highlighted, then you point at any of these 2 and you right click. So whatever you do with this right click now applies to both files. So you say copy and you go to the folder, C, test folder, and then you right click and you say paste. Now I brought 2 files at the same time. Okay, let's go back to my training folder. When you use this method, it only selects files that are next to each other. You can't jump a file. If you'd like to select files that are not together, what you do is you click on the first file, then you hold down the control key on the keyboard. So you look for the control key, you press it down, and you don't leave it until you finish selecting the files you want. So now we choose that file, we skip these 2, and we select that file. So now we have selected files that are not next to each other using the control key on the keyboard. So once again, you click on the first file, and it doesn't have to be the first one on the list. I can actually start with this particular file, and then I hold down the control key and click on that one, and then click on that one, and then click on that one. So you can see that the order in which you select them does not matter if you are holding down the control key. So what I'm going to do is point to any one of these files that are highlighted and right click, then I'll say copy. Then I'll go to my test folder, open it, right click and say paste. So what I did was to deliberately select some files that were already in my test folder. Earlier when we were pasting, it simply dropped the files. It did not give us any message. But now it finds that one of the files that we are pasting is already inside this folder. And the rule is that you cannot have 2 files with the same name in the same folder. So there are a number of options. We can either copy and replace the one that is there, or you can say don't copy. In other words, it will skip this particular file, or you can say copy but keep both files. Then it says the file you are copying will be renamed presentation number 2. So it means that if I allow it to copy, it will now give the new copy the same name, presentation, but number 2. Then the last option says do this for the next, then it says one conflict. So it is saying that there is another file that is also already existing. So if I would like to use the same option for that other file, I select this particular option. So once I click on here, I can then select the particular option that I would like. So in this case, I want to say do not copy the file that is being duplicated. So in other words, I want to skip the file which is being duplicated. So I say don't copy. So you can see that only 2 files were actually copied because the other 2 were already existing. So that is copy and paste. So when we are copying, as the term implies, we are making a copy. It means the original file is remaining where it was, but we are creating a new copy of it. So at the end of the day, we now have 2 copies of the same file. However, there is another option which is cut. So like in this case, let's go back to C in my training, and then I can select any of these files by right clicking, and then I say cut. When you say cut, it means it is being removed from this folder. So it is actually a way of moving a file from one folder to the next. So I say cut this presentation and take it to C and test folder. So I right click and I say paste. So because it is already there, I want to move that file from the training. I now say move and replace, because if I say don't move, then that cut is useless and the original version remains in the old folder. So for me to move it, I must select move and replace, or move but keep both files. So probably let's use move but keep both files. So now you can see that I now have presentation and presentation number 2. So let's go back where we took it from, which is my training folder. Now you can see that presentation is no longer here because we have cut it and not copied. So you need to be very careful on which option you select. And the dangerous thing is that when you go to the shortcut, right click, cut and copy are next to each other. So if you're not careful, you can actually think you selected copy while you actually selected cut. I remember at one time I wanted to copy one of my favorite movies for a friend. So by mistake, I said cut, and then I went and I pasted onto their flash drive. But when they were gone, I now discovered that I no longer had that movie, because instead of copying, I had used the cut option. So far, we have created a new file, and then we copied files from one folder to the next, and then we moved files using the cut and paste option. So we did copy and paste, then we did cut and paste. So every time you say copy or you say paste, let's say for example I take this file here, right click, copy it. Wherever I go, let's say on the root folder, I can say right click and paste. In this case, it is saying I need administrator permission to copy it to this folder because the root folder is normally for system files. So I'm going to say continue, and it will now paste that file onto the root folder. Now I'm going to go into my test folder. I say right click and say paste, and then it pastes that file here. I can go to many other places, right click and say paste. So whenever you say copy, whatever you have copied is memorized onto what is called a clipboard. Until you copy the next thing, you are going to be having this file on the clipboard. So you can continue pasting it as many times and as many places as you wish. But the moment you copy a new item, let's say for example, I now go back to test folder and I now copy this desert file. This now becomes the new item on the clipboard. So wherever I go, I can now paste this new file, desert, because it is the one which is now on the clipboard. So if you are pasting to more than one place, you don't need to repeat the copy process. You only copy once or you only cut once, and then you can paste as many times as you wish. Next, I'm going to show you how to delete a file. So to delete a file, you simply select that file, right click on it, and select the option that says delete. And when you say delete, it asks you if you are sure you want to move it to the recycle bin, because the recycle bin is where you put every item which is deleted. The reason why it is put in the recycle bin is because you can change your mind later on and you return it from the recycle bin. But once you delete it now from the recycle bin, you can't recover that file anymore. So in this case, I'm going to say yes, I want to delete it. So it is now deleted from this folder. So the same way we selected many files, either by highlighting like this or by pressing down the control key and selecting different files. You can select more than one file and then right click on any of the selected files, or you can simply press the delete key on the keyboard. So I'm going to press the delete key on my keyboard, delete, and then it asks if I'm sure I would like to move the 4 items to the recycle bin, then I'll say yes. So now it has deleted more than one item at a time. Lastly, I'm going to show you how to rename or to change the name of a file. So we are going to take this first file here. Let us right click and then view and select large icons so that we see the contents of the file. So I'm going to right click, then select rename. So when you select rename, it now highlights it. I'm going to call it flower and press enter. So now I've renamed this one to flower. I can also rename this presentation 2 because now I no longer have 2 presentations. So instead of typing the whole item, you now click again at the position where you want to change. So I can click at the very end here and then I press my backspace key and then I press enter. Now I have renamed that presentation 2. It is now simply presentation. So these are the tools that you basically need for creating, copying, moving, deleting, and renaming files. So we are in the test folder that we created. So inside that test folder, I would like us to create more folders. In other words, we want subfolders for the test folder. So let's right click and then go to new and say folder. The first one, we are going to call it personal. Then you press enter and then you right click again on an empty space, new and folder. Then we call this work. So now we've got 2 folders inside test folder called personal and work. So let's go into personal folder by double clicking. The personal folder is still empty because we have just created it. So we right click inside, select new and folder. This one we call it movies. Press enter, then you right click, new, then folder, you call it photos. We right click on another empty space, new, folder, and this one we call it music. So you can see that we've now created folders inside the personal folder for movies, music, and photos. Let's go back to the test folder by simply clicking on test folder up there. So this is the shortcut. What you could actually do is you could go back to computer, then you select C, then you select test folder, but that is unnecessarily long. So we want to go now into the work folder. So you can see that the work folder is still empty and it actually shows on this icon here that there's nothing in this folder. But when you go to the personal, you can see that it has got more folders inside it. So let's open the work folder and we are going to create work related folders. So you right click, new folder, I call this customers, then you create another one, right click, new folder, then you say suppliers, then right click, new folder, then you say marketing. So you can create different work related folders inside the work folder. But suppose you want to classify your customers according to different categories. You go into the customers folder and you right click and say new folder. Let's say, for example, we have got products for domestic use. So we call this one domestic, for domestic clients. Right click and then create a new folder for industrial clients. So now from my test folder, I go into work folder, then into the customers folder, then into either domestic or industrial. So if you still remember our discussion on the directory or folder tree, where we started with the root folder on top, then the next level is now the test folder. And when you are in the test folder, you now see these folders plus any files that might be there. So a subfolder can have its own folders or subfolders as well as individual files. Then you go into the next level, which is work, and it now shows the contents for work. Then you go into customers. It now shows you the different types of customers. You could split these folders as many levels as you want. For example, I could go into the domestic customers and separate them according to their location, where they are residing. So I can now say I want clients that reside in Windhoek. I want clients that reside in Oshakati, clients that reside in Swakopmund. So these are folders within a folder domestic, which is inside a folder customer, which is inside a folder called work, which is inside a folder called test folder, which is inside the root folder for C. So we've literally created a folder tree which has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 levels. So I'd like you to play around and create a deep folder structure just like I've done now with your test folder, work, customers, domestic, Oshakati, Swakopmund, and Windhoek. So the same thing that we did with the files when we're copying, moving, and renaming, you can also do it with a whole folder. So like for example, this personal folder, you can right click on it, cut it, copy it, or rename it. So whenever you copy a folder, you copy it with all its contents. So let's take this work folder where we've done a bit of work. So we right click on it and say copy. I want to take it to the training folder. So because I've copied, we are going to leave this version here, then create a new copy in the training folder. But if I had said cut, it was going to remove from the source folder. So now I get here, I right click and I say paste. So now we have got work under training and we also have work under test folder. So let's go to training where we copied it and see whether it has got all its contents. So everything is there. So whatever operation you can do with the files in terms of copying, cutting, renaming, deleting. You can also do exactly the same with folders. But you need to be very careful because, as you can see, a folder can have so many files and other folders inside it. So when you delete a folder, you could be deleting hundreds of files at the same time. What I'd like you to do is, when you finish with this part of the training, email me your test folder. So all you do is you go to your email and you attach this test folder on that email and you send it to me, because I would like to see whether you have successfully created these subfolders and also whether you managed to copy some files from elsewhere on your computer. So it doesn't really matter which files you managed to copy. Just make sure that they are not huge files, because if they're big, you are going to have problems when you try to email them to me. So I hope you have gained enough knowledge to be able to manipulate files and folders on your computer. I'll see you in the next module.